the system.
How you doing?
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
This is the Heel to the Face podcast with your hosts, Jared Wicks and Brandon Icebreaker Clements. Tweet us using the handle at Heel to the Face.
Woo! 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 Woo!
The bell is rung, so let's step in the ring with your hosts, Brandon and Jared.
This is the Heel to the Face podcast. We were off last week, so we didn't do Super Showdown. We tried to put up a video, but then life got in the way. But either way, we are back this week for a jam-packed show to break down Super Showdown, get you ready for Crown Jewel, which is a few weeks away. And don't forget Evolution as well. But most importantly, this week's Raw and SmackDown. I'm joined as always with Brandon the Icebreaker Clements. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. You can find myself on Twitter at Jared Wicks, and most importantly, follow the program on Twitter at Heel to the Face. So without further ado, let's get this week's show underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening
With a 20-minute time limit.
So I guess let's start before we get to Raw. Let's go all the way back. Super Showdown past Saturday. I watched it like everyone else did for, like 10 o'clock in the morning, not at 5 o'clock in the morning, which was fine.
I wasn't doing it either. I wasn't getting up at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I was surprised that anybody on our Twitter question a couple weeks ago was. I don't really know what the point of that is, but either way, more power to you if you did.
Right.
It was a decent show. Some interesting points. I've noticed this, and this was same with Saudi Arabia, and the same for this place, is they don't sell out. Yeah, I noticed they did pans, and you could tell in the upper deck there was
empty.
Not empty, but
there was gaps.
Yeah, if it was if it was 30 rows in a few of the upper decks, it was probably full up to like row 14. And then there'd be big sections of emptiness, like a baseball game.
And here's the other thing. I don't know if you saw
and
that.
And you don't see that at WrestleMania. That's the one thing about WrestleMania. If it's a 100,000 seat stadium, it gets 100,000 seats. Don't mean to cut you off, but it means
you're good.
It's full. Like you don't watch WrestleMania and they'll be like in a 200,000. If they were at Bristol, Tennessee, at the racetrack, they would have it full. They wouldn't be we still got 150,000 here, but haven't, like they had 70,000. But it's just weird because in Saudi Arabia.
Glad you said that, by the way.
Okay, maybe it's not a real number.
That 70 is not a real number.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what that place holds.
I mean, that place holds a lot more than 70. But from obviously the Twitterverse and all that, I thought I heard and read something that it was more like 58, maybe 60. That's still a big deal.
Yeah.
But
I just find it weird that, I guess, because these venues in the States, when they do the Royal Rumble, they do WrestleMania, and they do them in stadiums, it's just that the stadium is filled. They're not like in a 100,000 seat stadium drawing 80,000. Like at WrestleMania, it wasn't like 70,000 in an 80,000 seat stadium. It is always 70,000 in a 70,000 seat stadium or whatever. So
exactly.
So Saudi Arabia and this, I noticed that there was a lot more emptiness. And I guess, too, the way that they have it set up, as well, same as like Saudi Arabia was kind of similar. There's kind of like big gaps on the, I don't know if the floors themselves are really big, but like by the entranceway where they were coming down, I feel like the rows, the seats on the ground didn't go back too far. And I saw that in Saudi Arabia as well. Like they went like 10 rows, and then there was like these huge like walkable areas on the floor.
Yeah, it wasn't jammed in. They weren't jammed in there by any means.
It was just a different setup.
Yeah, it was. Here's the thing too. I don't know if you caught it on the broadcast, but I think Renee Young said if you walk around like the top concourse,
it was a mile.
A mile.
That's pretty impressive.
That's a big area then. That's a Mondo-sized place.
I say WWE, you did a good job. I
agree
with the tourism commercial that you did during the event. I want to go to Melbourne, Australia now. It looks like a great place. Seemed like between every single match,
looks beautiful.
What they were doing
Looks beautiful there.
That's what they were doing. I mean, it was
beautiful.
Tourism, and I liked this, and this is something, I remember back before the internet days, people were unaware of, I guess, what celebrities did outside of the United States, commercials, I guess they did, until they came up with those weird shows, like, did you know Brad Pitt did a commercial in 1985 in Italy for some car brand you never heard of? Well, that's exactly what we saw here at Super Showdown. There was this, what was it, meat pie? Was that correct?
Yeah.
It was like this Vegemite meat pie brand. And
they
had like these
familiar.
people that won some contest from that brand that got to be moved up. And the WWE superstars were in the commercial for it.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was like meat sandwich or meat
and
pie
they
or
had
something.
What was it? One of the Usos in the tub?
Yeah.
That was cool.
So it was like a commercial
funny.
for something I've never heard of in my whole life. I'm curious. I'd like to try it, but like I said, it seemed like a big Australia commercial.
It definitely was. It's definitely an Australian thing. And then as they showed the commercial, like after they went back to the commentating area, I think Renee said she had kangaroo. If I got that correct.
I think you can if you go to a carnival or a fair around the United States, you can have that here as well. But obviously,
It's not as authentic as over
you know,
there,
I would
right?
think though. But authentic, you know,
It's not like, okay, so if you're going like, you know,
I wouldn't know better versus worse kangaroo.
I mean, I've never had kangaroo. I don't know what it's like, but I'm going to say that kangaroo, you know, Australia kangaroo. It's kind of like how it goes. It's like Italy with Italian food. You can't get it better than.
Doesn't it seem kind of sacrilegious to be eating kangaroo in Australia? Don't you think they would be more sacred there?
You would think, but why bring it up? Why bring it up and say you ate it then?
I guess. Well, I mean, I just feel
You know?
I'm not saying she's wrong, and maybe you do eat kangaroo in Australia, but it just seems kind of weird.
Anybody
that
from
you would
Australia, let us know.
That you would eat the animal in which is like so sacred to your country. You know, we treat dogs and cats differently here in the United States. That's why we don't eat them.
Yeah, other places a little different.
That's why they eat them there, because they don't treat them like they do here. But either way, what do you think the best match of the night? Obviously, I probably would say AJ versus Samoa Joe.
Yeah, I'd say that was probably the best match of the night. That was pretty good. I thought this is going to be an underrated match. Well, I shouldn't say match. I would say more of a moment. Actually, moments. Two of our Australian groups. Well, I should say groups. Let's say the Iconics as a duo. And then Buddy Murphy.
You know, I was fine with the Iconics winning, but I felt that it was too much on the nose to have him win the Cruiserweight belt.
That was cool. I like that. It was in his home country, man.
Well, no, I think it's cool for him to compete. I just feel it's way too predictable to have, you know, it takes me back to SummerSlam 92 with like British Bulldog winning. You know, I feel like when you're in some other country, it's too on the nose, too predictable to just have. I mean,
get it.
the Iconics winning because it's not a meaningful thing, but to have somebody win a championship that somebody else has been holding on to forever, who essentially, I mean, I'm not saying I'm a big 205 Live person, but I mean, it's not like he's been fighting for that belt for a long time. It's pretty much like he got the match because it was in Australia.
But if you know the backstory, I mean, I'm not a 205 Live expert at all, but, you know, hearing the commentators talk about Buddy Murphy's transformation, you know, when he was with Blake and Murphy, this is back when, you know, him and Alexa was like their manager, like their valet in NXT.
And then are they married? That boyfriend, girlfriend, I think, or are they married?
They are not married, because if you watch the Total Divas, he's made an appearance on there. And Nia Jax, and I mean, from what you see, Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss kind of have a rift. And it's a real life rift. It's not like, oh, it's because it's on the match. A real life rift because they had an issue. Because Nia kind of, I mean, I could be reading this wrong, but she kind of was like, why don't you just marry the guy? Because if he doesn't get married in WWE, and luckily they picked him up and said, yeah, we're gonna put you into 205 Live. Get your body right. We'll get you to 205 Live. They say they're gonna cut him. Guess what? He has to be here because he has a work visa. So guess what? He goes back to Australia, and guess what? Does that mean him and Alexa are done? I would say probably yes.
Well, I mean, I want to say, I mean, when you're a celebrity, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, but not the way Alexa's been. You know, Alexa and WWE. I mean, WWE travels a lot. I mean, they go to these countries. What are you going to see? Hey, buddy, I'll see you in 4 years. You know, like, what kind of relationship is that? You know what I mean? So Alexa being a face of, you know, she's one of the faces of the women's, what do we call it, evolution, which is, you know, coming up here. Her face is everywhere, and she's all over the place. So I mean, I get that she makes good money, but working 300 days a year, it's hard.
Really have time.
You don't have time
to spend. I know, like if you're let's say a baseball player, you could spend 6 months. You know, their homes are in other countries and they can spend 6 months out of the year there.
Exactly. Basketball's the same way. Like a lot of the you know, European players, they go back to their home country. Like one of the guys from the Knicks, he's from France. He went home in the offseason, just trained in France, and then once basketball season starts, he
still have gaps, especially too, like the NBA. Yeah. You play like 3 times a week. You know what I mean? And if you have the money, you can fly. If you have 2 days in a row, I mean, you can fly somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, if you have enough money, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Yeah, you can travel.
So I won't lie, I bought it, and I feel like an idiot. I never buy it. I never buy this. Michael Cole, I forget what word he said, but when he spoke, and Triple H, Kane, Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels were all raising their hands together, I literally bought that maybe WWE, because Triple H is the face, the head, the real actual COO of WWE, that I felt maybe for that sake alone, that I'm not saying we would never see these guys ever in the same ring again, just they wouldn't be together in the same ring. I thought that they were really putting an end to this.
I didn't see it that way.
And then immediately, nope.
I didn't see it that way. I'm surprised you didn't follow. I'm surprised you kind of got sucked in, honestly. I figured you'd be on the same.
I know Shawn Michaels is coming back to the ring prior to this announcement. I guess I was surprised too. Moving on to Monday night, DX is making another return. T-shirt run.
I saw that coming. I saw that coming from a mile away. Like as soon as like the whole thing with Shawn Michaels, like kind of like being there for his best bud and all that stuff. Like I'm not saying I was 100%. Oh, DX is definitely coming back, but it's like. When they started ripping their shirts off, I'm like, oh, here we go.
So not a Twitter question of the week, but we'll throw this one out there right now as a question. More surprising at Super Showdown. What hairstyle were you more surprised by, John Cena or Shawn Michaels? John Cena. Shawn Michaels surprised me, but John Cena.
Wait, do you mean John Cena Layfield? Is that what it is now? JC Layfield?
John Cena Layfield.
Because he's got the JBL look, right?
It's one of those things that you just can overnight turn. You're a kid, and bam, you're an adult. And that's John Cena. He's young. Is he ever going to get old? And the next time we see him, it's like he aged 20 years.
He looks like JBL.
Yeah.
He looks like JBL with the hair. It's JBL's hair.
I don't it doesn't work for him.
I will say this. It's more of a drastic change with HBK, but I kind of like it. Because here's the thing. Let's be honest. I'm not calling anybody out on this, but if your hair is getting a little bit lighter, you're not having much hair. Yeah. Just shave the darn thing. Look at what they did with Baron Corbin. He looks much better.
I don't think his hair. I think Baron Corbin is young enough to grow hair if he wanted to.
No. His hair. His hairline was bad. So I think WWE got to a point and said, "All right." And here's the thing:
it's like Taker back at WrestleMania 28.
It's true. I mean, look at Luke Harper. He's not exactly light. And if you look at his hair, he's a little light in the back. Mm-hmm. To me. Don't be surprised in a year or two that you see, not only do you see Eric Rowan bald with the big beard, Luke Harper will be too. Watch. I'm telling you. Because here's the thing. Shawn Michaels did it for a good reason. He was a little bit lighter on top. I think it's
lighter on top my whole life.
It's a good look. I think it's a good look for him. The John Cena look, I don't like it. Like he can still grow hair.
Well, it's not just he can still grow hair. It's that him growing hair wasn't his look. His look was having less hair, and now that he's grown his hair,
John Cena has more of my hairstyle. Generally,
I would guess that if John Cena was to grow his hair, I would at least prefer that he styles it. I guess just the lightness of it just made it look super old.
Yeah, he looked like it. He did look like,
and he has a bald spot.
Well,
in the back.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I guess it's not noticeable when you're got really short hair.
Yeah, you could see it a little bit. Like when I watch enough, because watching like Total Bellas and stuff. Like it's like. Are you trying to zoom in on the back of the guy's head? Like, leave it alone. We know he's like 40.
So I did not like John Cena's hair.
But I will say though, I really did it. I did enjoy the Triple H Undertaker match. I did like that. It was a good match. It wasn't like the all-star technical deal, but it was still a good match. It was intriguing. It was just funny seeing like Undertaker kind of swatting HBK like a fly. Kind of, that was cool. Kane didn't really get involved that much, honestly. I mean, not for a while, and then he went through the table, but it was more HBK for a while. It was more like the three of them, and Kane was just kind of in the background, and finally Kane kind of got involved a little bit. And then we saw how things went. So it definitely tells me, DX. Do you think this going to DX? Do you think it's a one-off? Do you think we're going to see one more match and then call it a day, or you think this might be a little?
I think it's
run?
a one-off for now in the sense of see what HBK can do. I see HBK wrestling at WrestleMania under the DX banner. I see him being himself. Maybe under the DX banner, but by himself.
Could you see like an HBK Triple H thing?
I could see HBK. I want to say HBK like AJ Styles. I don't see HBK Triple H. I feel like maybe him going against somebody new. Maybe HBK Shane McMahon. Like that's
why don't they
a
just do
popular
this?
thing. They'll throw Shane McMahon.
Maybe it's just maybe because Triple H and Shawn are literally best friends, not even in the business but in real life. Why not do what he did to Ric Flair? Because Ric Flair and Shawn are very close.
He already did that.
Yeah, but do it.
Well, actually, it was reversed. Sorry.
What?
He was when Shawn Michaels first came back in 2002.
But
And
here's
he,
the thing.
ran him over, or not? Did he run him over? Or did he throw him into the car? And then they looked at the footage, and it was Triple H. And then that set up for their unsanctioned match, and then they feuded over the belt. Had a Hell in a Cell match.
Here's what I'll say.
Then.
Here's what I'll say. I could see Triple H and HBK at WrestleMania, a singles match. And this is the big if Shawn Michaels can go, you let him go. He hasn't also been in a ring.
Well, that's what we're going to find out at Crown Jewel if he can go. That's, I think, why. And I think that's why it's a tag team match. I think that's the way to do it. In fact, speaking of tag team matches, not at Crown Jewel, but Evolution, I think that's the same idea with Mickie James teaming up with Trish Stratus, as we learned on Monday Night Raw.
Wait. You mean Mickie James and Lita?
Yes, correction.
Or I'm sorry,
Trish Stratus
and Lita. I'm sorry.
Lita teaming up against Mickie James and Alexa.
We both got that wrong, by the way. It's Mickie James.
It was
and
supposed
Alexa.
to be singles matches, but I think that WWE probably realized that they would be a little more be able to feed off each other if they teamed up, seeing that they both haven't really wrestled outside the Royal Rumble, which isn't wrestling. But they haven't really had singles matches, so it would probably be best to team up so that they can get their strengths. And I would say Trish Stratus, maybe not so much Lita, but Trish Stratus looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think she
had a lot of high kicks on Raw, showed her athleticism.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. I think she still do like yoga?
Well,
things
yeah.
like that.
I'm not saying Lita doesn't look good for her age, but that's the nicest way to put that.
I would say this. Because of Trish, because I think she has like her own yoga gym or something, and it's like in Toronto because she's from Canada, obviously, but she stayed in great shape all these years. She looks great. I feel like she hasn't aged that much.
Well, when you have money and you do stuff like that, you don't.
But here's the thing, though, that I never, and maybe it's because I was a little, younger and I didn't really think about it, like during the Trish Stratus era. I forgot how much of an accent she really has.
I think that because she's probably been away for so long, she didn't really have that much of an accent before.
I listen.
Like
it doesn't sound bad by any means at all. But I'm like when she's talking, I'm like, I don't think she ever really talked like that back in the day.
Well,
I'm like,
you haven't heard her in a while, I guess.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's been so long that I've heard Trish talk. I will say though, she still looks good. I think Lita looks good too. I just
feel because Lita does the top rope stuff, and I feel like that's not something that she can still do.
I think she can. I don't think she can do it more than once in the match.
Because I saw her do the top rope flip at the Royal Rumble, and it was like on the second rope kind of nonsense.
Yeah, it wasn't all the way up.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was. It wasn't high air like it was before.
But I still think she can still do the patented moonsault. I think she can still. I wouldn't expect her to do it all the time, but in a one-off, why not? If she can, you can still see she still has some spring left. I wouldn't put her in a 30-minute match, but
that's why they're teaming up. Speaking of Raw, I thought, to me personally, this felt like a good Monday Night Raw.
It was a great show.
I mean, obviously, they pull it out for Chicago. That's not fair, man. All these big cities like Chicago especially, more than I think the other ones, they always give them the best. Give Chicago a regular Raw because they're going to turn out anyways, but they give Chicago the best Raw of the year. And I felt this was the best Raw of the year. I felt because it had a lot, because you had just a ton. You had obviously started off with DX. Then Kurt Angle's back.
But we also had the Bella Twins turning on Ronda.
Then Bella Twins turning on Ronda. It felt like a lead up to WrestleMania kind of Raw.
Yeah, it was top notch. I didn't, normally I'm not gonna lie. Normally I kind of fast forward through some of the, what do you call it, the fat, fat of the show. This show I watched literally the most of it. I had a feeling the Conquistador was Kurt Angle.
I did not. I thought it was actually Heath Slater just because of their interaction earlier in the night.
I feel bad for Heath, man. He's getting the short end of the stick. I could see where you could see, Heath, but I just had this weird feeling. I saw him and they kind of panned to him a little bit, and I'm like, I think that's Kurt.
See, it didn't look like Heath, but that's what I just thought because of their interaction earlier in the night about him not being good enough or whatever.
I looked and I wasn't 100%, but I was like, I think that's Kurt Angle. And then when he started putting the moves on, in the way he came in the ring with his body and it, you can just tell by his movements. I'm like, oh, that's Kurt Angle. Then he started doing the Olympic slam. I'm like, oh, that's definitely Kurt. And then he took the mask off. That was great because he stuck it to Corbin. That was great.
So we move over to SmackDown. Charlotte and Becky Lynch led off the show in Indianapolis with a double count out. It's announced that at Evolution it's going to be a last woman standing match. Do you think that match will be the main event for the pay-per-view?
It should be. It should be the main event.
Or do you think they'll pull out the Trish Stratus nonsense?
No,
or Ronda Rousey.
No,
even?
This to me is the main event. It was a hell of a match on SmackDown. I did watch the match all the way through. It was a hell of a match. They were on for 30 minutes?
Yeah, it was quite a
I
while.
think it was 30. It was literally like a quarter of the show was them.
Yeah.
And that was like the ending there when Becky got speared by Charlotte
into the
right into
video
the
boards.
Yeah, the LEDs. Like, dude, that was sick. I was like, I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, you know how the fans go, holy shit. And I was like, holy shit, that was pretty good. That was a good. Not gonna lie, that was a good little set there.
So the build up to one night in Milwaukee was pretty dudful. Obviously, they're still keeping the feud going with Rusev, but now they're pulling out the stops of Rusev just being a jerk about it. But overall, I mean, what did you think you were going to expect? I mean, they played it out to like it wasn't. They didn't make it even. When they showed the part of the video, it wasn't suspicious at all. It was like, oh, I could see where it just because it was like, I want you, and then I cut off. Like, I mean, that could be anything. I want you to buy me dinner later tonight. I want you to I want you to sing more. I don't know. Yeah,
because that's what he does. He sings.
So, I mean, that was really lame. It was pretty much exactly like I expected, but they keep the feud going just by Rusev or Aiden English at the end just being like, well, the offer still stands and kind of being a jerk about it.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Once this feud's done, I could see Aiden being chopped out. I can see him out of WWE. I don't think there's anything for him, honestly. Once the whole Rusev thing is gone, like he was like a cheerleader. He was like a valet. But now that Lana's obviously went back to her normal role with him, with Rusev, what's there to do for Aiden? I mean, he was with what was the guy's name from the Vaudevillains? You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, with the mustache.
Mustache dude. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but I didn't think they got enough of a run as the Vaudevillains, but Aiden English has been from everything I've read, he seems like he's a pretty decent guy. I guess from what I read though, his tag team partner, Simon Gotch, that's who it is.
Simon Gotch, yes.
Simon Gotch, he was a jerk backstage. He got in a fight with Sin Cara, or one of the Sin Caras.
I think I did read that as well in the past.
I guess he was not easy to deal with. He wasn't friendly with people. He wasn't like a team player. The WWE doesn't want that.
And English got screwed over, I guess, by it.
Yeah, because the Vaudevillains, I thought they were going to get a push.
So quickly, Big Show returned. Do you see this to be like Big Show making a full-time return, or do you think this was just kind of like a one-off? Especially seeing they didn't even let him win the match and join the pay-per-view. Do you see him at the Crown Jewel pay-per-view?
No.
I do because I just feel like it's obviously an all-men's pay-per-view. So I feel that they're going to try to bring out some big names like they did before when they were in Saudi Arabia, making this like Royal Rumble where they have like 1,000 people and bring back all these stars because that's what the Saudi money pays for. So I feel like maybe this was kind of like a tune-up to have him in some match. But do you feel like he's coming back full-time? Do you feel like you're going to see him in any real storylines? I don't either. I don't know why they didn't save this match for the 1,000 SmackDown. That would have been probably better.
Yeah, because it's like, because the return of Big Show.
Yeah, I mean, because it's going to be the return of Rey Mysterio and Evolution.
I can't wait for SmackDown 1000. I think it's going to be a decent show.
I was at SmackDown 900. It was a decent show. So The Undertaker and the return of Edge and SmackDown 1000. Hard to believe it's been 100 episodes since I was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania to watch SmackDown 900.
You've been to a bunch of shows since then, so.
Oh, well, that could still do it regardless. That is a bell is what that's more the appropriate sound there.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But a bell works. I was going to say the ring bell works because that signals the end of the match and that signals the end of this segment of the show. Regardless, so that's going to do it for our Super Showdown build-up and our Raw and SmackDown recap as well. Busy week in WWE. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to look out for our other videos, including our social media SmackDown, where we got 2 Twitter questions of the week to catch up on, as well as our tweets of the week. That'll come up in our social media SmackDown segment.